All right, let's get right into it because we have to talk about one of the absolute most dangerous places you can be. And no, it's not some risky investment or a crazy volatile market. It's your comfort zone. And here's the thing that nobody is going to tell you. Every single day, you decide to stay there. You're not just being comfortable, you are actively losing. You're losing out on opportunities that could literally change your entire life. I mean, really think about it for a second. Your daily routine, your job, the way you handle your money, it's all familiar, right? It feels predictable. It feels like you're in control. Yeah, it feels safe. But what if I told you that feeling of safety is a complete illusion? What if that very thing you believe is protecting you is actually the single biggest financial risk you are taking right now? So how in the world does this work? Well, it all starts with these invisible walls that are holding you back. Let's just call it what it is, the cage of comfort. This brings us to what we call the financial comfort zone. And listen, this has nothing to do with how much money is in your bank account. It's a psychological state. It's built out of your money habits, your deepest fears, and the beliefs that you've been carrying around for years. It's the financial normal that your brain is literally hardwired to protect at all costs. You wake up, you go through the same routine, which leads to the same income, which locks you into the exact same life, day after day. You might tell yourself, hey, I'm doing okay. But if you're being honest, deep down, you know you're stuck. You feel that pull for something more, don't you? And that, right there, is the trap. Comfort feels good. Of course it does. It's easy. But it's also a hidden prison. It's quietly putting a ceiling on your potential, it's smothering your growth, and every single day, it's costing you your freedom. Because let's be clear, real growth never happens in comfort. So the big question is, why do we do this to ourselves? Why would we willingly choose to stay in the cage? Well, to understand that, we gotta look at the psychology of staying put. And this is where things get really fascinating. The main culprit here is something called the comfort zone bias. Basically, it's a glitch in your brain that makes you stick with what you know. It will actively steer you away from anything new or challenging, even if those new things have the potential for massive rewards. And this explains exactly why it happens. See, it's not some personal flaw you have, it's ancient programming. Your ancestors survived because they avoided the unknown tiger lurking outside the cave, so your brain is wired to freak out at uncertainty and to avoid the painful sting of failure. And honestly, staying put is just easier. Your brain loves to conserve energy. And let's add another layer to this, the status quo bias. This one is powerful. Your brain automatically sees any change not as a potential gain, but as a potential loss. So that idea you have to start a side hustle, your brain flags it as a huge risk, danger, you could lose time and money. But staying in your current job, your brain flags that as safe, even when staying put is the real long-term danger. And this is a perfect example of loss aversion in action. It's been proven over and over. The psychological pain of losing $100 feels twice as bad as the pleasure of gaining that same $100. Your fear of losing is a way stronger motivator than your desire for winning, and it keeps you frozen right where you are. So what's the real price of playing it safe? Well, while most of us are wired to run away from risk, a few people understood the true massive cost of comfort, and they made a different choice, $1 billion choice. Take Jeff Bezos. He calls this his regret minimization framework. He literally projected himself into the future and realized he didn't want to look back on his life and see a giant list of what-ifs. He understood that the pain of regret is so much worse than the pain of failure. And what did he do? He walked away from a super secure, super high-paying job on Wall Street to go sell books online from his garage. Think about how crazy that sounds. He chose intentional, strategic discomfort over a lifetime of comfortable regret. Oprah Winfrey has another way of putting it. She completely reframes what failure even is. It's not the opposite of success, it's a required stepping stone to success. The real risk isn't trying and failing. The real risk is never even trying at all. Okay, so we know we need to leave the comfort zone, but where are we supposed to go? The answer isn't total chaos or burnout. No, there's actually a scientific map for growth. It's called the optimal discomfort zone. This graph right here is the key. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson law. Look, way over on the left with too little stress, you're bored, you're unmotivated, and your performance is in the gutter. Way over on the right, with way too much stress, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, and your performance collapses. But right there in the middle, that is the sweet spot. So the huge takeaway here is that the goal is not to eliminate stress. The goal is to find the perfect amount of it. This optimal stress zone is where you feel challenged, you're focused, and you are performing at your absolute best. This is the only place where real growth can actually happen. Okay, so that's the science, that's the theory, but how do you actually find that zone and, stay there? Let's break down the escape plan. Here it is, just 4 steps. Number 1, seek strategic discomfort. Do one small thing every day that feels a little uncomfortable. Make that call you've been putting off. This builds your risk muscle. Number 2, take calculated risks. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow, but maybe start that side project or learn that high-income skill. Number 3, track your progress. Tracking even the smallest wins proves to your brain that you're in control, and that builds incredible momentum. And finally, number 4, create a written roadmap. A real financial plan turns all that vague anxiety you feel into a clear, step-by-step direction. And you gotta remember, this whole process isn't about becoming fearless. Fear is totally normal. The goal is to stop letting fear be the one making all the decisions. It's about retraining your brain to see that feeling of discomfort not as a threat, but as a sign that you're about to grow. Which brings us right here, to the end. And now you are faced with a very conscious choice. You can't pretend that comfort is free anymore. Now you know exactly what it costs. It really all comes down to these 2 paths. On one side, you've got comfort, and that leads to an average life. It leads to stagnation, and eventually it leads to the heavy, heavy weight of regret. But on the other side, you've got discomfort. Yeah, it's harder, but that's the path that leads to growth, to real wealth, and ultimately to freedom. In the end, it just boils down to this. The choice is yours. Every single morning, you decide which path you're going to walk. Your entire future depends on the relationship